We like to call it the Supernatural Hour. And now, our hosts.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Supernatural Hour. I'm sitting here with...
Raven. I love my new name, just so you know.
And?
Dawn.
You want to know what I did?
We're Chad.
I don't understand the Chad thing. I saw that on Discord. You're like, it's like Chad has joined the chat. And I'm like, who the hell is Chad?
I'll have to show you the comic. There's a comic. But I have to tell you what I did.
Okay.
I went on I went on Amazon and typed in Raven the way I spell it. I have to spell it cool, R-A-V-Y-N. And there's actually some things on Facebook. There's a thing that says it's a Raven thing you wouldn't understand. And then there's the one that says Raven with a picture of a raven. And then I went all crazy, and I bought a Ravenclaw shirt, just because.
That's so Raven.
Anyhow.
For those of you that watch Disney Channel back in the day.
Going way back.
Anyway, so I'm kind of stoked about my new nickname. It's my game name, too. If you game with me, my game name's Raven.
Okay.
Because I'm a geek.
Beaker sometimes.
I'm a geek that way.
Some people know me as Abram, because that's one of my characters on World of Warcraft. Yes, I'm a geek.
Well, actually, if you go in my games, I'm actually Raven Al Valar, which means Tribe of Valar, and Valar is the name of the person that's my liege in the game. Anyway, it's... yeah.
Sometimes I die in games and turn into a ghost. That's paranormal related.
Anyway, I went out in the weeds. Sorry. Welcome to Paranormal Hour with us.
Supernatural Hour.
But you said paranormal, so that was stuck in my head, so...
I don't know. Well, if I said it wrong, I apologize. Welcome to the Supernatural Hour.
We don't even know what the name of our show is, I think.
I guess we'll handle a little bit of business, and all I have right now is go to advancedparanormal.com. Under the merchandise tab, you can buy some of the awesome Advanced Paranormal and Supernatural Hour merchandise that we have available there. We do have stuff like t-shirts, coffee mugs, travel tumblers, notebooks, and some other cool stuff. Go check it out.
Notebooks?
Yeah, we do have notebooks.
I love notebooks.
We have a notebook with the Supernatural Hour logo on it. I've seen one, and they're actually pretty cool.
Because I did go there, but I didn't go past the apparel. I'll have to go get a notebook.
Yeah, there's notebooks and there's other fun stuff. There's even a tote bag.
I've got like 2 notebooks right here on our table with my notes.
And none of them are cool Supernatural Hour notebooks.
And none of them are Supernatural Hour notebooks. I need to get one. All right, well, that's what I'm about to buy next.
Alrighty then. I guess next up we have some recent investigations that I've done because Raven's been out of the country and I'm scared of Dawn when she's not around. No.
Chad.
Yes, Chad. You should watch Chad Vader sometime.
Okay.
So yeah, there's both of the ones I actually been on recently were follow-up investigations that we had. One of them was actually a follow-up from an investigation that our team did about a year ago. And this is not one that I remember because I was not a part of this one. But the lady contacted us. Her son was actually hearing disembodied voices in his bedroom in the basement.
Okay, that's actually kind of awesome. I mean, it can be scary, but it's awesome.
It told him something like, I want you to leave or something like that. It was not a nice voice.
So creepy. It
was creepy. It said something that it scared him. Like he literally, I mean, this is a teenage son too. He wasn't like a little kid. Mm-hmm. You know, he looked like he's about 16, 17 maybe. And he was afraid to sleep in his room.
Wow.
Like that's how creeped out he was. And so I set up the investigation. I took Peaches up there. It was just me and her. And we get there, and Peaches is doing her thing, gets her shoes off, and she's kind of filling out the area. And I felt energy in the basement really strong in one corner of the house, and I just kind of pointed to the corner of the house, and I'm like, downstairs in that corner right there, is that where you heard the voice? And the lady just looked at me like, holy crap. She's like, say that again. And I had me say it to her son. I'm like, the voice you heard, it was downstairs in that corner of the house in that room, right? And they just, the look on their face, they were just like completely surprised that I knew that.
That's awesome.
And they're like, how do you know that? And I'm like, I can feel the energy down there. Like that's where it's coming from. And it happened to be, I was right, that's the kid's bedroom where he was sleeping and he heard the voice. Some of the other stuff that the family told us after we got there, one of the sons had actually saw someone, no, it was his girlfriend or wife, saw someone standing next to her on the by the bed, and she thought it was her boyfriend, who's actually in the bed next to her. And she rolled over and saw him laying in the bed, and it kind of freaked her out a little bit. And I don't know if it was the same night or if it was a different night, but the same son kind of went around the house checking on everybody to make sure that they were okay. And he opened up this same bedroom where the other son had actually heard the voice. He opened that door and saw him laying on the floor. And he's like, okay, and then went upstairs. We got upstairs, that kid was actually up sleeping on the couch. So
Creepy.
they weren't exactly sure who they saw laying on the floor in the bedroom, but it definitely wasn't the person that was supposed to be in there, because he had already hightailed it upstairs. So and they mentioned that after we kind of finished cleaning the house, they mentioned that they were having some sort of, they mentioned, I think last year one of our investigators told them they had a water elemental. And I said, well, have you been having problems with your plumbing and like finding random leaks that you don't know where they're coming from, stuff like that? And they're like, yeah, how'd you know?
What water element?
And I'm like, well, that's actually one of the things that water elementals do. They kind of thrive on that kind of destruction.
Is this the one that the puddles smelled like Downy?
No, this was a different house. That house was in Magna. The one I went to was in Ogden.
Okay.
So we get there.
Oh, wait, just for your information, we are broadcasting from the Water Elemental Studios.
This is true.
Yes, we are.
The
Anyway.
room that we record in, there used to be some similar stuff like that where they thought it was a possible water elemental. So we get down to the basement because we knew that's where all the activity was happening before the family told us any of this stuff. All I knew was our team had been out there before, and they heard a voice, and they were scared. So we get there. Brandy, before we even got to the house, we were pulling up and just I think it's that house, because there's a portal in that one. So we go downstairs, and there's a big portal in the basement that Brandy was able to close the portal. And it was interesting because she got the portal closed, and then she gathered up personal items from each individual in the house. One of the things that she does is when we're at somebody's house is she puts a binding on the house with the permission of the homeowner. Obviously, we don't just do stuff randomly and not tell you that we're doing it. She's very thorough on her explanation on what she's doing, why she's doing it, and how it works. So the family feels comfortable with the decision on whether or not they want this done. So she performed the binding, and it was kind of fun because the family afterwards were like, well, is it gone? Is everything gone? And I just kind of looked at him and I'm like, I don't feel that same energy anymore. And then the son, who was afraid of his bedroom, he's just like, what's weird is it was really cold when we first came down here. Now it's a lot warmer. And I mean, part of that could have been if we had a big group of people in the room, and body heat does kind of heat things up. But the bedroom was also very cold when we first started, and no one was in the room. That door was shut. When we were finished and walking away, he went in the room and he's like, I can't remember the last time it's been this warm in this room.
Oh, that's awesome.
So being able to kind of clear those spirits out, and what it was is like a one-way portal where spirits were able to come through, but that was it. Once they're there, they're there. And so some spirits were just hanging out, and some, they would just go on their way. But there was one particular spirit, it was a male, that was just kind of a grumpy guy that was just kind of harassing the family. And there was, Brandy did confirm there was actually a water elemental. But as soon as she closed the portal, all the spirits kind of hightailed it. They're just like, we don't want anything to do with this. And so they left. Overall, it was a really good experience. It was fun to kind of teach them a little bit more about what we do and how we do it, and answer all their questions that they had. And it's always fun, when you're done helping someone at their house, to see that look of relief on their faces and know that they're not afraid to be in their own house or their own rooms. They're actually comfortable where they live again. Right.
We went to one, it's been a few months ago, and it was out in the Eagle Mountain area, and I think we've talked about it on a podcast after it happened, because this was one of my more favorite ones. But Basically, it was her grandfather's spirit, and the grandfather's spirit was kind of causing her some grief. He'd caused her grief in life, and he was still causing her grief. But when we got everything cleared and we got him out, she couldn't stop hugging us. I've never been hugged so much by a client. She wanted to pay us, and it's like, no, you can't pay us. Just the gratitude of people when they do get the help, but when they've been scared and uncertain of what's going on in their own home, it's really quite satisfying.
Yeah, so the other investigation I did, like I said, this was another follow-up, one that our team had recently done, that I was unavailable to go on as well. We had a lady that lives in an apartment by herself, and she was actually, and this is something I don't recommend doing, unless it's just like something that's kind of happening like right away. Like, obviously you're not going to be seeing orbs all that much with your naked eye, but if you do experience like sounds or noises and stuff, and you want to just take like a quick video to see if you get anything, that might be okay. But this person was kind of, she had a lot of videos she was showing me that she took in her house.
She was a little addicted to the orb videos.
Yeah, and I kind of had to explain to her, I'm like, okay, now that this was after I was done with the investigation, I'll get back into that, but I do not recommend trying to collect EVPs or videos of orbs or anything in your own home, because it can and probably will attract something that you may or may not want in your house. It could bring in a nice spirit. It could be a negative or not so nice spirit coming into your house. You just don't know. So I actually recommended that she stop doing the videos. Whether or not she's going to do that, I don't know. But I just we've mentioned this on our shows before. I'm just going to mention this again. Don't try to collect evidence in your own home. We all are paranormal investigators on the show and on our team, and none of us investigate our own homes unless we feel that there's a reason to absolutely do so, and we don't do it ourselves. We'll actually have other members of the team come and do it for us.
Yes, as you know, I've got 2 spirits in my home, and I have spoken to just them before, but that's only been a time or 2. And that was early on, in my investigating. I don't know that I would even do that now.
So some of the experiences this lady was having, like I said, she was getting the orb videos, and I believe she said she saw or felt someone in the bathroom, in the shower area. And then I believe she also had a case of like sleep paralysis. And there was just some negative energy that it wasn't feeling right in her house. And this is about a month or so after our team had been out there. And so I went back to kind of just check on things and see, if there was anything that the team had missed, and there wasn't. This was actually a different spirit that had found its way into her house. So the spirit that was bothering her beforehand, our team actually did get rid of. I believe they were talking to a spirit originally named Tim, and he was gone. He wasn't there when I went back. Then there was a spirit that was still there, but it was her older brother that was kind of there watching over her. And it was funny because I felt her dad come in and out every now and then. Her dad was actually a crossed over spirit. Her brother was not. He is still earthbound, and he's there watching over her little sister still, making sure that she's okay. Now this other spirit, I'm not sure who he was or where he came from. I just know his energy felt like, it wasn't wanted in the house. So I was able to kind of tap into his energy, and I was able to kind of ask him to leave the home, because he wasn't welcome there. And once I was able to get him out of the house, we just kind of used our smudge spray around the doors and windows just to kind of create a seal to keep him from coming back in. So I'm not as good at doing like protection and stuff like Peaches is, but there have been cases where I've been able to kind of, and you've seen this, Deanne's seen this, where I've been able to kind of get a spirit to leave the house, and then I just kind of seal the door that I get them out of afterwards to just kind of keep them from coming back in. But then we were able to talk to her brother a little bit and find out some information, some very personal information that I can't share on the show. But the one thing that was funny, she was showing us the video, and in the video she tells her brother that she loves her, and I hear from the brother, I love you too.
Aw.
So it was kind of nice to be able to tell her that her dad and her brother, they were watching out for her, and that they love her and hope that she's doing well. And I explained to her, I'm like, your brother is going to be with you until the day you die. He's like one of her spirit guides now, in a sense. He's more of a protecting spirit, but yeah, he's going to be there watching over her until it's time for both of them to go home.
Awesome.
So we were able to kind of, she did have 3 stones. There was a really big one and then 2 smaller ones off to the side. And I thought it was funny because I'm like, you know what these stones represent and why you picked these out, right? And she's like, no. I'm like, are you very religious? And she's like, I believe she was raised Catholic. I don't know if she still practices the religion. But the way the stones, the sizes and the way they're set up, I'm like, that represents the Godhead. And you got the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost.
Oh, that's awesome.
And there was some weird energy on one of the stones. I was able to cleanse that and revitalize the stone with positive energy using Mike's help. But we were able to handle the situation and get the spirits out that were bothering her and let the ones that wanted to be with her stay. And it was funny because like her friend that was there with us, and her as well, you could see their whole demeanor change, and you can just feel the shift of energy. Like they pointed it out before we even said anything. The friend was actually like, yeah, she's like, it feels a lot happier, a lot brighter in here now.
Oh,
so
awesome.
that was another story that we had where I was actually able to help somebody out and again make them feel comfortable in their own home, which is again
That's why
one
we
of
do
the main
this.
reasons why we do this.
Absolutely.
So that was some of the recent investigations that I've done.
Well, and we actually have 3, maybe 4, actually maybe even 5 residentials in the works. I've had people will contact me, and then we have to, it takes 3 or 4 days to get a team put together. Sometimes people will contact me and say, we'll get back with you, and they don't. But I've got about 3 or 4 or 5 in the works, so by our next podcast, we should have even more stories.
Well, on our next podcast as well, we should have stories of our family tree investigation.
Absolutely.
By the time you hear this, the investigation will have already happened, but as of the time of the recording, the investigation is tomorrow. So, it was fun.
Family tree is always a good time. I've never gone to family tree and not had something happen.
So, unfortunately, on this episode, you won't hear any of our stories from Family Tree, but it will be on the next episode that we record. And one of the things that we're going to try to do is collect more stories and evidence from the ticket holders, you guys, the listeners, the people that come and join us in the investigation. We want to hear your experiences, and we want to be able to share them with everybody else on the show.
Right, because we have a lot of listeners that aren't local and, that can't come to Family Tree, because they're in New Zealand or something. So, we want to be able to share more, and let them experience it as much as they can, even though they can't actually attend.
Yeah, and I'm sure as much as you guys enjoy listening to our paranormal stories, it might be nice to hear these venues from somebody else's point of view, because let's be honest, I've been there probably like 40 times in the last couple of years.
Right.
So I'm sure you're tired of hearing what I have to say. Maybe, I don't know, you could enjoy what I have to say, but we think it might be nice to be able to kind of collect stories and share them that other people had, not just our experiences.
Right. So if you do come on one with us, remember what happened. Of course you're going to remember what happened, but we're going to have you write it down, either email it to us, or we'll have a form you can fill out, or, let us know if something interesting or exciting happens, and, and if you want it shared. Sometimes things happen and it's personal and people don't want them shared, and that's fine, but it'll be interesting to hear others' experiences.
Yeah, one of the new things, one of the new directions we're taking is, instead of just trying to make the investigations on the website, the Facebook, and the podcast, instead of just our perspective and point of view, we want to open it up more to what everybody experienced. We think that might be more enjoyable for you guys. I know it's going to be more enjoyable for us, because it is exciting for you guys when you approach us on the investigations, be like, oh yeah, this happened and this happened. And to be honest with you, we sometimes forget about it, and when it comes time to recording the show, but we're going to try to be more active on posting the stories on social media or talking about them on the show.
Well, and everybody experiences things differently, and you're going to hear our points of view and how we experience things, but a lot of the ticket holders might have completely different experiences, and things may manifest differently to them, and that will be fun to hear.
We're going to jump into Stone of the Week, and this week I have picked ruby. Ruby is red in color. It's bright and transparent when it's polished. It's opaque when it's not. It can be small faceted crystal or a large cloudy piece. Its rarity is when it's uncut, it's readily available. Polished as a polished gemstone, it's expensive. Some of the places it's mined from is India, Madagascar, Russia, Sri Lanka, Cambodia, Kenya, and Mexico. Some of the attributes of ruby is that it's an excellent stone for energy. It imparts vigor to life, it energizes imbalances, but may also sometimes overstimulate in delicate or irritable people. Ruby encourages passion for life, but never in a self-destructive way. Now, it improves motivation and setting of realistic goals. Ruby stimulates the heart chakra and balances the heart. It encourages following your bliss. This stone is a powerful shield against psychic attack and vampirism of heart energy. It promotes positive dreams and clear visualizations and stimulates the pineal gland. Ruby is one of the stones of abundance and aids retaining wealth and passion. Psychologically, ruby brings up anger or negative energy for transmutation and encourages removal of anything negative from your path. It promotes dynamic leadership. As I'm reading this, I think this is a stone that I need to go buy. Like when I was scrolling through the Crystal Bible, trying to decide what stone I needed, I got to this one and something told me to just stop and read about this one. And I kind of feel like this is for me, but hopefully it's for some other people out there as well. Now, mentally, ruby brings about a positive and courageous state of mind. Under the influence of ruby, the mind is sharp with heightened awareness and excellent concentration. Given this stone's protective effect, it makes you stronger during disputes or controversy. Emotionally, ruby is dynamic. It charges up passion and fires the enthusiasm. Ruby is a sociable stone that attracts sexual activity. Physically, ruby overcomes exhaustion and lethargy and imparts potency and vigor. Conversely, it calms hyperactivity. Healing, ruby detoxifies the body, blood, and lymph, and treats fevers, infectious disease, and restricted blood flow. It is extremely beneficial for the heart and circulatory systems. It stimulates the adrenals, kidneys, reproductive organs, and spleen. The position you want to use this is either over your heart, on your finger, or on your ankle.
You could get like an ankle bracelet that has a ruby in it.
I might get like a ring or something.
Well, I'm not saying you, I just mean...
You could get an ankle bracelet made of ruby. You could. That'd be cool. As a combination stone, you can actually find ruby in zoisite. I don't know if I'm reading that correctly. When it's in this combination, it actually activates the crown chakra and creates an altered state of consciousness and facilitates access to soul memory and spiritual learning. It can be extremely helpful in soul healing and in past life work. This stone has the unusual property of promoting individuality while at the same time retaining the interconnectedness with the rest of humanity. It powerfully amplifies the biomagnetic field around the body. And again, that is ruby.
So that sounds pretty cool. I actually have a question for you. It just kind of popped up. Has nothing to do with ruby, actually.
Okay.
But I'm going to ask anyway, because it has to do with stone, and we're in the Stone of the Week segment. So, a good stone for insomnia. Do you have one off the top of your head?
I want to say halite.
Okay.
It's a white and black stone. I actually have a piece of halite hidden in my pillowcase.
I'll have to get one, because I have the problems with insomnia.
Yeah, I believe halite helps with that. I'll have to do a little more research on that, but I know halite is helpful when it comes to sleeping.
Okay, so if you, like me, tend to suffer with insomnia, we will have more information about you at our next podcast.
I don't know if I've done halite before. I might have to do that on the next episode.
Yeah, because I do the insomnia.
Yeah, so that's Ruby, and it's funny, as I'm reading the healing things, I was telling Dawn earlier, I had an ultrasound done on my heart this morning, because I've been having some chest pain and some numbness in my arm. It was determined it wasn't a heart attack, but they're still trying to figure out what's going on, and I think it's interesting that some of the things that Ruby says it does is it helps with the heart and other problems along that line. So
we need to get you some ruby slippers. Like
apparently,
Dorothy.
yes, and then I will walk around and annoying the shit out of everybody, clicking my heels saying, there's no place like home.
Alrighty, so I think that can bring us to our wacky paranormal news. I don't know that this is pretty wacky. I'm just going to read it because it's the purpose of this was kind of some guy went through the old New York Times and wrote down just some funny stories that he found in old New York Times. And so the purpose of me reading this is to give you that old kind of cadence and words that they used. So this was printed in the New York Times, April 21st, 1896, and it's titled, "Flatbush Has a Ghost. It has returned for its hand, which Mr. Norton dug up." It says, the old town of Flatbush, now the 29th ward of Brooklyn, has a ghost. A Simon Pure, sure enough ghost, that nightly walks on East Broadway near Norstrand Avenue and stops at the house of Charles Norton to make inquiries for a hand that it lost there many years ago while its restless spirit was in the flesh. These visits are not fully appreciated by Norton or his wife, but it appears that Norton is to blame for the appearance of the ghost, because his ghost ship was not heard of until Norton, while searching for gold in his cellar, dug up a hand that had laid undisturbed for years. So, don't dig for ghosts, or don't dig for gold in your basement, you'll get the ghosts. So there was a ring on one of the fingers of the exhumed hand, and when this had been rubbed, the ghost, in true Arabian Nights fashion, appeared, and as it failed to get instructions from Norton, it is said now that all it wants is this hand and ring, that thereafter it will cease worrying the descendants of the early Dutch in Flatbush. Now, I don't know what early Dutch has with it, but it's like, give me my hand, give me the ring, I'll leave you alone, right? So, the story that the old Dutchmen in the town tell of the ghost is that 60 years ago, this is where we learn about the Dutch, a belated traveler with lots of gold in his belt stayed overnight, and they spell stayed, S-T-A-I-D, stayed overnight at the farmhouse of one Krug, a thrifty Dutch farmer. Now Krug, when he heard of the large amount of gold that his visitor had about him, gave up his own room to the stranger and insisted that he should occupy it. The next day the visitor had disappeared, and when the family asked Krug about it, he said the man had departed before daybreak. But mysteriously, I added that, the bedclothing was also missing, and Krug accounted for that by saying he had burned it because the stranger had just recovered from an attack of yellow fever. So it all sounds up and up, right? Subsequently, a man's hand was found behind the bed. It had been cut off by Krug with an axe, it is said. When the hand was found, Krug disappeared, and the hand was buried. Mrs. Norton, in speaking of this ghost and its uncanny visits, said the house was haunted and continued, and I quote, "Everybody who has lived here since murder was done under this roof has had bad luck. One man who occupied the house about 40 years ago left his wife and children and ran away with another man's wife. Another was a burglar, and when he was caught, a whole lot of silverware was found buried in the cellar. Another committed suicide. We've been here for 6 years now, and there has been nothing but sickness in our family. I don't like to talk about these things. It sends chills down my back." Norton, while hunting for the silverware supposed to be buried in the cellar, dug up 2 rusty Revolutionary swords and several pieces of ancient coin before the hand was unearthed. So, moral to the story, if you don't want the ghosts, don't dig for gold in your cellar.
Or don't kill people and put them in your cellar.
That's probably good advice, too.
Well, what if you're killing them for the gold that you bury in your cellar?
You're going to get the ghosts.
You're going to get the ghosts.
Damn it. Alright, I guess I won't steal gold from a ghost.
Alright.
I mean, it sounds like fun. Don't steal from dead people, that's just mean.
Yeah. Although I could do a lot of things with gold.
I could too. Like,
I'd go on more vacations.
I would just make YouTube videos of me playing with my gold and be like, ha ha ha.
Like laying in it and making like gold angels, like snow angels, but gold
yes.
angels.
I'd do like a Scrooge McDuck thing And although this isn't physically possible, I would swim in my gold.
That'd be hard to swim in gold.
Oh yeah, no, he did it in the cartoon.
Oh, because you can do anything in a cartoon.
Oh yeah, cartoons are real.
So you can swim in your gold.
Yes,
We'll do
in
it.
my dreams. So yes, to answer your question, halite is a good stone for insomnia.
So I just put it in my pillow?
Yep.
Awesome.
I actually looked at my list. I've already talked about halite, so it won't be on the next episode. We'll pick something else. But halite, for those of you who are wondering, like Deanne, is good for insomnia. Like I said, I've got a little piece that I have in my pillowcase, and I, put it on the side that's actually on the bed because I don't want to lay on a stone. That wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, because my favorite thing to do is to be like super tired at 10 o'clock that I can't even stay awake, and then I fall asleep, and then I wake up at midnight, and then I lay awake staring at the ceiling till like 4 in the morning.
Yep, try some halite.
So, awesome. I will.
Cool. Well, thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll catch you next time.
Yep, talk to you later.
See ya.
You've been listening to the Supernatural Hour at AdvancedParanormal.com. The Supernatural Hour is part of the Radio Ronin network found at RadioRonin.com. Copyright 2021 by Advanced Paranormal Services.